because they hit the whole industry.
It's a pretty big deal. I'm looking forward to diving into it. And you told me before this webinar you had some breaking news. I'm interested.
Yeah. Stuff that
Yeah.
just came out today.
All right. No, good to know. Well, we'll give it a few more minutes before we get started, Jose. Obviously, we got a little trivia quiz from last week. Uh, Eliza, welcome to the webinar. Jenny, welcome to the webinar. I see we got a support team in here too. Welcome to the
Nice.
webinar. Tisha, welcome to the webinar. Oh, there's Don. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well. Leave a comment or emoji in the chat. Just want to make sure chat's working today. It looks like Eliza was able to chime in from Puerto Rico. Awesome. Eliza, are you a student, healthcare worker, business owner? Hey, Don. Hope you're doing well. Give it one more minute, Jose.
Yeah, no worries.
Man, before we get started, I know this is a bit random, but I just got I just saw a headline for that Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse earlier this morning.
Yeah, it
That's
happened last
unbelievable.
night.
Unbelievable. Prayers
I'm
and
curious to
thoughts
see who they're
to
gonna blame it on.
yeah. I don't know a whole lot. I just saw sort of a headline, but I don't know. I'm assuming maybe the ship lost power, or I don't know. I gotta.
I mean, the internal jerk in me is like, how did
It's
you hit a
uh,
bridge?
I,
You
it's
know,
a
like,
good it's a good
like how did
question, but
you?
man,
It's wild though. Like, if you actually see the pictures, it's crazy. I don't know how many people got caught on the bridge when it hit or anything like that, or what time of day, but
yeah.
it's wild
I
though.
just saw the footage. It's scary, man. That's like Nightmare Unlocked. But all
Yeah.
right, well we'll go ahead and get it running. Um, let me go ahead and share screen and let me know if you guys can see. Might take a second. And for those of you that just joined in, we do this every week. We just do a quick little trivia from last week's presentation. So if you weren't there on that, we sort of talked about the importance behind having policies, procedures in place at your practice, and sort of covered how EPICompliance can help you out in that regard by keeping these things online in one place and keeping them updated for you. But today's trivia question, and again, you guys can just respond with your answer in chat. Today's question is, which of the following are considered key components of effective policies and procedures in the healthcare setting? And those answers are A, clear and accessible documentation, B, regular training and education, C, simulated drills on emergency response protocols, and D, all the above. So you guys go ahead, throw in the answers in chat, and we'll give it about 30 seconds. Don, I thought you were located in the Baltimore area. That's man, that is crazy.
Oh, is that where she is?
I thought so. I thought so. All right, I'll give it another 10 seconds. We got some answers trickling in. Fortunately or unfortunately, I didn't throw a whole lot of trickery in this one this week, but just wanted to see where everybody's heads are at. So, again, the question was, which of the following are key components of effective policies, procedures in the healthcare setting? A, clear and accessible documentation, B, regular training and education, C, simulated drills on emergency response protocols, and D, all the above. I would say the safe answer is going to be D, all the above. Again, clear documentation ensures understanding of policies, procedures. Obviously, regular training keeps the staff informed, and having regular simulated drills to prepare them for emergencies. Again, all the above is going to be your answer. So appreciate you guys
Did you pick this based on today's topic or just last
No, no,
week's
no.
topic alone?
No, this was last
Because
week.
it kind of fits for both.
A little bit, a little bit. I didn't, I didn't formulate it together for today's presentation, but now I see it. But let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and share screen and let me know if you guys, let me know if you got it, Jose.
So while you're doing that, I'll give the quick TLDR background. So for the
Yeah,
last
absolutely.
month and change, Change Healthcare, which is owned by United Health Group, was hacked by an organization that is colloquially named Black Hat and Alpha E or something like that. Point of the matter is that if it hasn't affected you in your healthcare business yet, it's because you haven't had to deal with certain aspects of the healthcare industry, but there are so many things that are spidered in. So maybe you don't deal with it, but some of your vendors might, or some of your ancillaries do. So it's been causing a hiccup, so much so that even other EHRs and private practices have been getting hit directly on the fallout. I mean, this has gotten so bad that the AHA president has actually spoken to and wrote a letter to HHS secretary and OCR secretaries to talk about modifications on the breach rules, because who's this breach on, and the cascading effect of the one breach at Change Healthcare. Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Agreed.
I
It's
say
bad.
hiccup because I mean, we'll go into it, Don, but yeah, so I mean, it's wild how vulnerable the healthcare system is proving to be because of the way that the IT infrastructure has been built on certain companies. So you only have to hit certain key points, and the cascading effects just absolutely wreck the way things are done. So yeah, but we'll dive into it. I mean, right now, if you have a breach, you still have to follow the breach rules, but we're hoping to get some alleviation from that, because if it's a cascading effect from this ransomware, then you as an organization may not have to report it because it's already being reported from the originating ransomware incident. So it just it's forever evolving, but it's leading to some pretty interesting challenges. So Ray's whole, all right, what do we do about A, B, C, and D?
Right.
We're on some of those for certain aspects of healthcare, like prior authorizations are, if you're dealing with United Healthcare, if you're dealing with Change directly, if you're dealing with Optum RX, which is owned by United, if you're dealing with anything that's on the United network, so it could be a smaller regional insurance plan, or it could be your own employer plan, but it's on the United Healthcare network, you're SOL. So there's a lot of just cascading effects to this that everybody's got to pay attention to. And since OptumRx is a huge pharmacy beneficiary, and it's just messing with everything. So much so that even our EHR at my mental health practice, we got notifications 2 weeks ago that
Tell the audience, Jose, which
could,
are you using Practice Fusion, correct?
yeah, we're using Practice Fusion, which is owned by Veradigm,
Right.
which is the same
Right.
company that owns Allscripts. So when you really start diving deep into how the healthcare industry is set up, you're quickly finding that if you're not owned by an insurance company, you're only 3 tiers, maybe 2 tiers away. Like, this isn't 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon anymore, like 30 years ago. You're very quickly, with the investment and evolution of IT and the IT infrastructure for billing and for transmitting healthcare information, you're spidered into everything. You're spidered into everybody. So there's no way you can avoid completely all of these scenarios, or any of these scenarios. So you're going to get fallout from this one way or the other. That's the point. So how do we deal with that? So the
Hey,
good
Jose,
thing is that if
Jose,
you're
before
if
we
you're
move forward,
probably
is any
watching us, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, anybody in here that is currently being affected by this, please feel free to comment in chat. And just curious overall to see how many organizations out there or how many in our audience have been affected by this.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely wild. I mean, it's gotten so much so that today United Healthcare put out a presser saying that they're telling all of the other major insurances to do what they're doing, which is essentially loaning money to the end provider and the end pharmacies and the end hospitals while they fix this mess. And then you set up a 30-day repayment plan once everything is back up and running, just to make sure that the infrastructure for healthcare in the US stays running.
Ah, man.
Understand how wild that is. That a for-profit insurance carrier has actually decided, yeah, and changes your clearinghouse. So you can't bill anything if your clearinghouse is down.
No.
And a lot of times, if you
Unbelievable.
have an EHR, you don't get to choose your clearinghouse. There are like five, yeah, there are like five clearinghouses, which it depending on who you are, I think that's nowadays clearinghouses are the biggest racket ever in healthcare, which is something wild to say because there's so many unnecessary rackets. Yeah, eClinicals doesn't let you choose. Yeah, so a lot of the United is asking for all the other insurances to go ahead and basically loan based on what you've been billing to the insurance carriers, so that way the offices can stay in operation. Now, Dawn, your office should be able to push some things through. I know that today in that big United Health release, they said that they were going to be releasing something like 14 or 15 billion dollars worth of claims. So it's, I mean, the it's just absolutely wild. Like the clearinghouses used to be a major tool in the way that a provider communicated with an insurance company, because if you're not involved with the billing system aspect of it, you capture information from the patient. And many moons ago, when you used to have to mail in 15 CMS 1500 forms, or you used to have to fax in CMS 1500 forms, they would go and make sure that the information is transferred in such a way that the insurers can read it and expedite the process of paying the individual providers. Now, nowadays, and for the last 20 years, with the advent of EHRs and everything being digital, the clearinghouse doesn't really need to exist, because there's no way you can tell me that an EHR can do all of the things that it can do, but for some reason it cannot speak to an insurer's receiving platform and transfer the information or data the way that the insurers want or need. It doesn't make any sense. So now they're just a spidered in tax. If you don't know how clearinghouses work and you're billing an insurance company, if you have a biller or an EHR, I promise you, you're being charged for the use of a clearinghouse. It can be a 0.5%, it can be a couple cents per claim. They come in a lot of different ways depending on the deal. But that is to say, Change Healthcare is a major, as you're seeing in the chat, a major player in the billing aspect.
Is there any
So eClinical,
have they
that
announced anything yet in terms of when they could potentially come back online, or is it still just
so
you're just
they're
getting
going to be. They
reminders
said
and
that they were going to be processing a massive bulk of claims
mhm,
over the next couple of days. But that doesn't mean that you're going to get paid out on that right
true.
away. One, you don't know if it's actually going to go through the normal process, because what do you do? Yeah, every day it's in a few days, Don. Absolutely.
Every
They're going to
day
keep
it's
saying
in a
in a
few
few days
days, you're
until,
right.
oh, we fixed that a couple of days ago. That's the way the insurances
Man.
work, because they're genuinely hoping that they can figure it out, but they're that lost. And this really should be something to where it should open everybody's eyes up on the aspect of how spidered one company, which I bet you before today, or before this incident, maybe 15% of the healthcare industry even knew who Change Healthcare was.
Now everybody knows
Maybe. I
that.
mean, now everybody's going to know Change Healthcare, and
Yeah.
now everybody should be looking at every single vendor that has access to their information, and even their vendor's vendor, because this is a vendor's vendor for a lot of people, unless you're using something like eClinical where they are your clearinghouse. So it's just how do you deal with this kind of thing? So there's a way to go around it. And I don't know if a lot of the insurances are handling it now, but I know that when during hurricane season was really bad here in Florida and in Puerto Rico, the insurers allowed for people to go back to paper processing. The problem is, who the hell remembers how to fill out these forms?
That's a good
I,
question.
I'm gonna say something, and it's probably going to insult people, but I don't mean it insultingly. But if you remember how to fill out a CMS 1500 form and submit it to the insurance carriers, I promise you that everybody working at the insurance carrier right now does not know how to receive it.
How
Right.
old is
We're
that
talking,
form, Jose?
this was a normal part of the process when we had dial-up internet.
Oh man,
This has
that's
not been a thing since the beginning of the Obama administration,
that
3 presidents ago.
yeah, yeah. Wow.
We have a whole generation that is about to start being an adult and being a client in healthcare on a regular basis that has no idea. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thanks, CMS. But then, Don, remember, no one that's working at CMS, no one working at HHS that is processing these claims remembers how to do that.
Jose, wasn't there a letter that went out from MGMA to the Health and Human Services Department? Have they responded?
Yes. Yes, so MGMA did it, and then a couple days ago was the American Hospital Association that was doubling down on the, hey, I don't want to be part of the breaches. Hey, you got to do something about this. The problem is, what do you do? What do you do? If I'm a clearinghouse, right? Or let's say I'm United Healthcare. I bought a clearinghouse. You bought a clearinghouse to save money. That's why Optum RX is on it. And then they just go around and pick up all the contracts with as many EHRs as possible so they can
Right.
capture more money. Cool. But if you have four, I mean, there's really four major clearinghouses that most insurance carriers and most pharmacies and most hospitals and most EHRs use. You're seeing what happens if one of them goes down. Now we got to go and call every insurance carrier and be like, hey, do you accept 1500 forms like you used to 30 years ago? Like, I don't mean to insult anybody's age that remembers filling out these forms, but it's
Yes.
it's a cycle. We're going back old school so that way we can catch up and deal with new school problems. So
That's
it's the good news is that if you're the end provider, you don't have to report this breach right now because this isn't technically your breach. You may be newly affected by the breach because it's finally spidered out to you, but you are not individually the reason why the breach exists. So that's what the AHA is trying to do. Also, the AHA is trying to go and make sure that their hospitals don't have to report a breach because all of them would end up being on that no-no list because all these hospitals have more than 500 patients. So they don't want the black eye of being on that list.
what about the
There was an
yeah.
OCR released something saying 1/3 of all patients in the US are affected by this breach.
That is
One
wild number.
third.
That is is that the
Just, I
breaking
mean,
news that you wanted to share? Because that is
that's the
unbelievable.
that's the big one for me. Is the hey, we don't have to worry about notifying the breach. Hey, the AHA is freaking out, which is always a good thing because they have good lobbyists. Means that they'll probably get things done. It may not help everybody at the low end, but And then the other good thing was that United is like, hey, if you have a high concentration of United patients or United Medicare Advantage patients and you're not part of that loan program so you can keep operating, get on it. Figure out how you can get in there. Because this is operating capital. Most healthcare practices are right now operating on very slim margins.
Mm.
So we've got to make sure that we don't have these kinds of hiccups, because if we have these kinds of hiccups, that's jobs. And that's where you might see something from the federal government in regards to if you're a healthcare worker and you get furloughed because of this hiccup, it's because of this incident. But yeah, oh yeah, Don, the relief is
It's
always
gonna,
taking long.
yeah.
The relief always takes forever.
It's
Always. You mean you
it's what
remember?
you said earlier.
You look at any
Every day
natural
in a few
disaster,
days.
FEMA shows up 2 weeks later, Red Cross 4 months. You know what I mean? Like the relief is always going to take too long to get there. It brings up liquidity issues. Hey, how much operating capital should we have in our practice? Is this something to where maybe as a practice you need to discuss having an insurance, aka like a line of credit on the business that just sits there for these kinds of scenarios. Some people use lines of credits to help offset the cost of bringing on a new provider right away. Other people using it for build outs. But maybe you need to sit down with your executive team and figure out, okay, what is our burn rate? And for those that don't know, that don't have a high college business acumen or anything like that, burn rate is just what your costs are every month. All right, it takes us $20,000 a month to operate. Perfect. How many months should we have operating? Well, depending on who you talk to, I like to use the idea that if it's good for me personally and as a household, it's probably good for my practice. Try to build up a reserve of 3 to 6 months. I mean, that will help. It won't alleviate everything, but even if you have 1 month, that helps. Because hey, all of a sudden this may be awful and we're on month, oh, I think this is a complete month now. So what do you do? Like how do we operate? So we got to have the contingency plans.
Yes.
We got to have this is a great way to test those contingency plans. What happens if my EHR is going down? What happens if what if I can't send my pharmacy scripts? So right now United is saying, hey, we're suspending any prior auths, any drug formulary conversations. They're just like, do it, just get it done. I got bigger problems to deal with than fighting you for prior auths. I wish that they would stop prior auths for a lot of things just in general, because they're onerous and the pain in the butt for no other reason than to save money, but it's a whole nother conversation. So yeah, I mean, we will see what the other insurances will do. And I believe that's where DC can put a little bit of pressure on Blue Cross, on Cigna, on Humana, to be like, hey, you need to be lenient while this gets fixed. But this could end up being a problem until late April, early May, easily. Because the problem with IT is finding the hole, then fixing the hole, then preventing that hole gets reopened.
Or just don't let it open to begin with. And
And
have the proper,
they didn't know that there was a hole there until somebody
well,
poked at it.
like you said,
Like,
like I said, the contingency plan, it's very important to have in
the
place, especially as an
contingency plan is
IT.
huge.
I'm
Oh, and don't
curious.
worry.
It doesn't state in the article, but who was United using as far as IT is concerned? I mean, you would,
So that's what I was going to say. Don't worry. This is going to cause some major blowback because it has to.
yeah.
It's going to
Oh,
cause
yeah.
blowback on Change Healthcare. It's going to cause blowback all the way up to the United level, because they're going to ask them the very basic questions of, hey, how did this happen? Why did this happen? And were you doing everything you possibly could to prevent something like this from happening? And because of all the spotlight that's on this thing, there's going to be some
Oh
congressional
yeah,
hearings. That I promise you. And
absolutely.
because of the bipartisan nature of the effect, I'm going to be grabbing some popcorn and maybe we live stream reactions of this, Ray, because this one's gonna be a good one. I'm gonna love
Get your
seeing
popcorn
what
ready,
the
guys.
what the executive, the chief IT officer of change is going to be sitting there roasting
He's gonna
in
get,
DC.
yeah, he's gonna get, he or she gonna get
You,
is gonna get
what do
grilled.
you say to that? Hey, what happened? Why did it happen? And the answer is going to be probably, I can tell you what the answers are going to be. We didn't know it was going to happen.
Of
We
course.
fixed as fast as we could, and we did everything that we could. Everything else is going to be per my Fifth Amendment
Oh yeah, I
until
plead
they
the
can
fifth.
find somebody to hang this on. Will this change anything long term? Maybe, maybe not. It probably will make things worse before it makes it better. Because if anybody's trying to fundraise for the federal government, this can cause more audits. The good news is that it won't be at the provider level, it'll be at the institutional level. So you'll probably see more insurances get audited. You'll see more clearinghouses get audited, more EHRs getting audited,
More business
which is
associate, right?
well, I mean, so this is definitely going to be a business associate issue,
Yeah,
but this is also a structural issue.
yeah.
So let's say that Change is the one that has the breach and they have the fine. How much is United on the hook for? Because they own Change Healthcare.
They're gonna assume it
Is
all,
this something
right?
that the fine is going to bleed through, or is this just something that United is going to take off of the top, or are they going to loan it to themselves to pay it quicker? So are the investigators going to take into account that United has deeper pockets than Change Healthcare as an organization does? So, like, this is going to be very, very interesting to keep an eye on over the next, honestly, 4 years by the time everything is said and done. Um, just to see how businesses should be structured and even the whole practice within a practice, because we got to look at it like this.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm a surgeon and I have a clever accountant and I've decided to go the route of every single provider, oh yeah. Don't worry, the ACO numbers are going to be garbage. You're not getting a bonus for the ACO this year. This is going to ruin that whole mess. Let's go ahead and say that, hey, I the practice within a practice model, where let's say that Acme Corp is my business and I'm a provider, but we're run by ABC Corp is the actual practice. So ABC Corp hires Acme and Acme hires me as the provider. So this is that practice within a practice piece that it was very common, especially in higher risk subsections of the industry just for malpractice purposes. But maybe that's not a good model anymore. Maybe it's even better model. There's so many questions that are going to be answered and so many questions that should be asked all the way down the road. So questions like, hey, do I even want to be dealing with insurances now? Maybe this is the headache that finally says, you know what? Screw it. We're not taking
We
any
got to do something
insurances.
else. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe we're just cash now. And we go and say, hey, patient, we're going to bill you. You pay me. I'll give you a receipt and you go fight the insurance for
You
your
can
money.
fight the insurance. Yeah.
If I have a PPO, they'll reimburse me. If I have an HMO, I'm probably screwed because I have an HMO, but then on top of that, I haven't, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of different ways that the this can be mitigated down the road, but this should, if it hasn't already, this really should force you to sit down and figure out what's going on. And the fact that this happened right during tax season, I mean,
Just
It's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
Because you should be sitting down with your accountant and being like, okay, well, how much did we make last year? All right, we made more than last year. We made less than last year. Okay, well, this costs more, or this took longer. Was the juice worth the squeeze over here? Or should we add more product lines? So there's a lot of questions that if you're not asking, maybe you should be. So compliance is going to be interesting. I mean, what are the effects of not taking any insurances on your compliance plans? I imagine, honestly, a lot less because you have less financial incentive to participate. You don't have the carrot anymore if you're not getting paid by the insurance plans. If I'm in, let's say I'm a PT or a chiro or a massage therapist or even a mental health counselor, maybe what I do is don't call what I'm doing healthcare anymore, but maybe it's coaching. Maybe it's just massage. You know what I mean? Maybe it's personal training. So there's a lot of ways to just start. All right, let's back up. Let's pause because we're forced to be paused anyways on getting paid. So we might as well pause everything else and reassess what our situation looks like. I mean, the deeper you look into this thing, the more spidered it looks. I was trying to map it out for my wife. And about 10 minutes in, she was like, if I didn't know that we were talking about a specific event, she would have thought, she was like, you look like a conspiracy theorist.
Okay.
I mean, because it's just wild.
It's reality. It is the
It's
reality of
wild.
this. It's such a large company and they have such roots. I mean, it affects everyone. It's just nuts. Well, you
Yeah,
said,
I
well,
mean,
you
so
said it
like, what
earlier,
do you?
one third of the population. That's astronomical.
So if
That's
we
huge,
only take
huge
into
number.
account the last census, right? 250 million people in the US. One third of that is 75
It's
million
brutal.
people are affected in some way, shape, or form. And these are just the patients, not
Yeah.
the business entities.
That's like I
I would
said,
honestly
I'm
say
I'm interested to see
100%
how
of the
it.
healthcare businesses are affected. It's just the magnitude by which they are affected is going to be the matter. Now, so
Right.
for example, in our healthcare practice, in the mental health practice, we use Practice Fusion. We luckily, because we're not using Practice Fusion as the billing, we use a different vendor. They use a different clearinghouse. So our billing hasn't been affected. But some of our pharmacies have been affected. So our patients are having problems getting the scripts because of that end. So it's something to where it's like, okay, what do we do here? Now, there's a convenience factor that the healthcare IT industry has been selling for the last 10 years. And it's the idea that I'm the all-in-one. You come with me, I earn your business, I'm your EHR, I'm your biller, I'm your clearinghouse, I'm your credentialer, I'm your AR, I'm your everything from clinical all the way through to the end. If something happens to that person now, how do you operate? My office freaked out when we got the notification, and I was like, is the EHR down? No, EHR is not down. We could still access record. Oh, is our teleconferencing tool down? No, no, our teleconferencing tool is cool. So, and we have a backup to that one, anyways. Great. Okay. I was like, is our internet down? Nope, that's cool too. Okay. Have we had problems sending scripts? Nope, because we use a different vendor for that. Even though it may push through on Practice Fusion, we use another tool for the electronic tokens. So for those patients that are on class twos that, can't afford to wait 72 hours, 4 weeks for this to get fixed, so it's very, very, very much how we got to be critically thinking about this stuff.
Have a backup to your
We've got to
backup.
figure out
You know.
how to prevent this stuff from happening. I mean, I just the fact that it was so vulnerable is
I'm
wild to me.
interested. Well, that right there is just scary to me, but I'm interested to see how they managed to get in that easy, right? I mean,
Would wager if I mean, I have no insight, none
it'll
of
come
my
out eventually. I,
contacts.
I can guarantee you this, everyone, that we'll probably be having at least one or two more webinars with updates
Oh.
minimum. Um,
Now,
the way
the
this is going to play
irony,
out.
and the if life has a sense of humor, which I believe it does, I bet that the issue is going to come out to being something extremely pedestrian and innocuous. Like somebody just went to go and download an update for a server, and boop,
And
they
boom, that's when they
they
got
put
in.
in a Trojan horse along with that update because they downloaded it from somewhere they shouldn't have. Or you know what I mean? Like something
Something
completely pedestrian that you're just like,
common
you
sense
should bloody know better. You know, like you change healthcare should know better since your entire job is virtual.
is, yeah.
I bet you it's that. I doubt it was like a brute force hack where everybody got together, started drinking a ton of energy drinks and just brute force hacked against those firewalls. I highly,
I don't
highly,
know.
highly.
They got a name, Alpha V.
Yeah, I mean,
Black
but
Cat.
even if it's one of these, even if it's one of these hacker consortiums out of Eastern Europe,
Yeah.
Prague, or out of the Czech Republic, or out of Hungary or Poland or something like that, where a lot of these guys are coming from, or even Russia. Um, I I would love to know what the issue, what they did. I would love to know it. They'll never tell
I
us,
like to see
but I
if they get
highly doubt
caught
that it's a
too,
brute
or
force hack. It just takes too long. And then when you do a brute force hack like that, even if you're passively monitoring, it should ping that there was a brute force
do
hack.
you think they'll catch this group
Now,
physically?
oh well, let me take that back. It doesn't matter if they catch them.
I was going to say if they do, you would think they would
Does
interrogate them and see how they managed to do
doesn't
it.
matter. Most of these guys, and this is the problem with these ransomware attacks,
Yeah.
and these ransomware attacks in general, and all these healthcare IT attacks, cyber attacks. These guys are in countries that have non-extradition treaties with the U.S.
Right. Right. I mean,
So if you have a non-extradition treaty, I can point my finger. The federal government can point their finger. Don't you dare go to a country where we have an extradition treaty, or we're gonna get you.
they're
Please.
basically untouchable.
You're joking, right? Like, I mean, they could probably just go ahead and just say who they are by name, and there's nothing we could do about it. If you have the sophisticated technological ability to do what they did, they have the ability to literally change their name.
That's a good
So my
point.
name is Jose Delgado. If I have that ability, I promise you I could change my name to Will Smith. Yeah. I mean,
No,
it's logic. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like,
no,
you mean to tell me that they don't have the ability to fake a social security card, to fake a passport, to fake an ID
that's like a flick of a
from
wrist for
another
them.
country? You know what I mean? Like, you're even if you knew who these guys were, short of sending a cruise missile up their keister, you're not gonna do anything. Which I mean, I'm not gonna get political, but we know one guy that would, if we knew who their name was, he would do it.
Yeah.
So I
It's
just I it's wild. It's absolutely wild. But I would bet when everything comes out, which it will, because this has got too many eyes on it now. And especially when it happened, and every day that it takes longer and longer to resolve, the worse and worse the beating is gonna become.
have they
Um,
announced this on mainstream media yet? You know?
no, no, this has been
No.
super quiet.
It's kind of
I'm kind of
it's
annoyed by that, honestly.
yeah,
I
that's
think
interesting.
that I think that some of the issues that have been popping up um internationally have been catching
Sure.
more of the limelight.
This will go.
Um,
I eventually this has got to make some headlight for sure. Some headline.
you'd be surprised. A lot of breaking news like this in healthcare doesn't pop up on major media. I mean, oh, what was it, 7 or 8 years ago, Allscripts got ransomware to where you couldn't even access Allscripts. That never hit major media. And people were locked out
What
for
was the
two
turnaround time on
weeks.
that? 2 weeks?
It was like 2, 3 weeks. So if you're a practice and you can't even access your EHR,
Yeah,
a
that's bad.
lot of people are just straight up neutered.
Yeah, that's bad.
Unless you have a provider of a certain age that likes to keep things on paper, so at least you have the records. I mean, your schedule. A lot of people's schedules are on their EHRs.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't even know who the hell's coming in. Like a lot of this stuff is so automated. I mean, and let's say that your EHR is the one that got hacked, like Allscripts did. Okay, cool. Then who sends out the reminders for the patients to show up to their practice? Probably the EHR through the scheduling system
Yeah,
or
yeah.
your phone system. You know what I mean? So it's just
Manual
and the
intervention at
sad
that
part
point.
is a
It's
lot of these companies are just white labeling other people's products and services. And they're just adding it as part of their suite of services, but it's really
but
not theirs. It's somebody else's
right.
that they're just using and slapping their name on it. So then you have the same vulnerabilities and probably the same not all the benefits from the original creator of the white label. So what do you, I mean, the only way you get there is by asking the question. I would love to see the BAA that eClinicals has with this, because eClinicals also gets paid on this.
Mhm.
eClinicals has, if I'm not mistaken, last time I looked at an eClinicals contract, because they're an EHR plus the biller, they lower the rate of the EHR because they make a cut of the billing.
Wow.
Are they going to sue Change Healthcare because of the amount of money lost?
I could see that. Absolutely.
Well, hold on though. If if my EHR could sue Change, why can't Dawn's practice?
I was I was just gonna say that.
Do we really want to open? Do the courts and Congress really want to allow that can of worms to be open? In our extremely litigious American society, you can sue for anything, and if anybody can prove damages, it's hey, in January
it's
we
every provider.
revenued $30,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
All the way up until this happened at the end of February, we were on track for another $30,000. And March is zero. It's
Yeah, it's
absolutely it's craziness. So I'm very, very like this is unheard of, right? So
yeah.
United
Yeah.
had to get out in front of it, and that's why I think that they are offering that whole, hey, we'll loan the money out to you. At the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere on that paperwork they say, this is your hush money if you don't repay it. So United goes and says, hey, practice, you Acme,
Yeah.
you normally bill $5,000 with us because of these patients. We'll go ahead and forward you that money. And at the end of the day, I would bet you that they're going to pull a PPP and say, hey, sign this piece of paper and you don't have to pay that money back.
Man.
Call me crazy, but I would bet you that'll be cheaper. Dawn, I mean,
I was
please.
yeah.
And you know what, Dawn, when you get anything from them, I would love to have you as a guest
I was gonna
on
say
with
we'll make
us.
Donna a special guest and she can share the
I would love to have that conversation
spill the
and
tea.
really, and so that way we can break it down and be like,
Yeah.
hey, these were some things that, maybe, on the back end of it, maybe 30, 60 days after everything is said and done and back to normal. Dawn, we can have you on and you can be like, hey, this is what I wish we would have done better. This is what they did. This is what they didn't do. This was the support that we got. Like, let's get all of the tea.
Yeah.
Because this can help everybody figure out what to do and what not to do. And a lot of times when mistakes like this happen, we're just dealing with the frontline effects. So the optics that our patients are dealing with, the issues that some of our vendors that are affected by something like this, it's extremely important. You're, yeah, but your ACO probably isn't offering the kind of assistance that you're looking for, Don, unless they're shelling out cash, which they are. They're the most magnanimous ACO I've ever heard of, and I would love to talk to them for a lot of our clients because this is just going to be the effect will be at least until next year in some way, shape, or form. If you're in an ACO, this screws up your quarters numbers. If you're trying to qualify for macro, this screws up your numbers. Mm-hmm. Even though this is this is March, so we're in the third month, but this could screw up your reporting period if you're trying to report with the month of March in there. Like, it's repayment shared savings. Okay, yeah. So they're basically offering you a loan. So I'm very, very curious to see how this. Yeah, agreed.
I was
Better
gonna
than a loan
say
with
it's
interest.
zero
Like
interest.
100%
I'll take
agreed.
that any day.
100% agreed. I'm looking at the end situation, right? Like, if I'm change healthcare, one, if I have an IT person I've ever heard of, I have them on the payroll to help solve this problem. Because we have to find the problem, then fix the problem. They're still in the fix the problem part, which after a month tells me they didn't find the problem very quickly. Which is a whole nother question as to how they didn't find the problem quickly.
Yeah. Who was sleeping at the wheel?
Then
I said, who was sleeping at the wheel?
I mean, that's a great question. Somebody's head is going to be on a pike. Somebody's head is going to be on a pike. This is too big for it not to happen. The question is if it happens before the congressional hearing or not. So let's say that we blame this on the IT company. If I'm my IT vendor, which a company like Change probably has their own internal IT. So OCR is going to have a fun day with them, asking all their internal IT about their policies or procedures, their backups, their integrity of their systems, how often they've been doing breach attempts, what were the results of those breach attempts, because here's one breach they didn't catch. So I'll be very, very curious who ends up being the fall guy. And then if Change/United come through and say, all right, every provider that was affected, I'm just going to go ahead and wipe away that whole repayment scheme as your hush money. And then every single patient that's affected, I mean, I can only imagine the bill that LifeLock is going to be giving them. Because usually one of the things that you do as a recompense is, hey, your information is out there. We're going to pay for something like LifeLock to help you if there's any issues down the road. But normally these are not something that your identity is stolen and it's turned around and used within the first 90 days. This is a multi-year issue. I mean, I've used the example before, but when USAA got minorly hacked, they went ahead and paid for LifeLock for everybody for 3 years.
And that was acted upon quickly.
Yeah. And so all I had to do was sign up for it, and it was paid for by USAA for 3 years. They didn't reimburse me. They flat out paid for it. So I'm very curious to see what the recompense is going to be to all of the patients. And it's going to be slightly comical when as many people as they're projecting get a letter in the mail saying, hey, so your information is out in the wind. Sorry. That's why you're gonna hear the congressional hearing. Not because everybody in healthcare is pissed off and upset. It's gonna be when 75 million people get a letter saying, hey, your healthcare information's out there. or could be out there.
Man.
What do you do? What do you I mean,
Like I said, like you said, this
we
is
got,
ground level right now. This just this happened a month ago, you know, and
well, it's happened a month ago, but the problem is that it isn't fixed.
well, it's not fixed, or it's not like they've sent
Like
out.
no. Ray, the I'll read from the article that um all right. So this is an update that was
It's just
published
the updated one.
yesterday. The update was yesterday, but it was late
Put in the
yesterday.
chat for the audience as well, if you could.
Say what?
I said put the link in the chat if you could.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So Change Healthcare said its largest claims clearinghouses would come back online over the weekend, more than a month after a cyber attack at the firm. More than $14 billion in charges have been prepared for processing, according to an update from parent company United from Friday. So that's not including anything from this week. Granted, we're still on Tuesday.
Right.
I mean, it's not going to be another $1 billion, but I mean, it's a wild amount. They said the electronic payments platform has been restored and the company is working on payer implementations. That's from the well, it's actually the same article. It just has updates attached to it. So the one that you already put in the chat, Ray,
Yeah.
that
That's
one,
got the
it's just been
updates included.
updated.
Got it.
Yeah. So the update before that from the 15th, they said that they made more progress restoring its pharmacy network about 3 weeks after the cyber attack. As of Wednesday, all major pharmacy, Wednesday, that would be like the 12th, I want to say. All major pharmacy and payment systems are online. More than 99% of pre-outage claim volume is flowing. But that was for pharmacy and payments. They said some pharmacies are still offline. Problems with infusion pharmacies and Medicaid fee-for-service patient issues are still there too.
Dawn raised a
So,
good
I
point.
mean,
She said patients aren't going to trust the provider, or that could be a sort of a
yeah, oh no,
downside
absolutely. So the
effect.
problem is always that the provider gets hosed.
Yeah, they get the ones that they're the ones that
Provider
get
always looks
hosed.
like the
Right.
guy that doesn't know what's going on. It's always their fault. I
Right.
mean,
They don't
it's
understand the
it's gotten absolutely wild. And I'll be
clearinghouse.
honest with you too. Yeah, so
Yeah,
Tisha,
so
let
I'll put
me
it back in the
I'll
chat. I got
read.
it.
Okay,
I got
put
it.
it back in the chat. Yeah. So I mean, I remember anytime a pharmacy has an issue, oh, the pharmacy's gotten very, very good at blaming the providers for issues. Now that they can blame somebody else, I mean, they're having a friggin' field day. It's always our fault. So how do we deal with this, right? So I mean, there's an optics issue, there's a process issue, there's a billing issue, so we don't have any money. So the only money you could be probably dealing with is what you've been collecting through your credit card processor, as long as it hasn't been a credit card processor that's attached to change. I mean, your credit card processor. So on top of your EHR, your billing, and your credit card processor. And then probably your pharmacy, some of your pharmacies. So I mean, at this point, the only thing that can be done is, I hate to say it, but the biggest thing for me is the convenience of having one vendor that does everything, worth the headache if that one vendor goes down. And how and what systems are there out there that I can use as either a backup
Right.
or as a divestment tool? And you see this conversation happening all the time in other facets. You know, you hear the federal government talking about, hey, we want to reduce the amount of trade that we're doing with China, or we want to increase the amount of trade we're doing with Mexico, or you know what I mean? So these are normal. I hate to say it, but these are normal industry capitalism conversations of goods and services. It just sucks that the impetus of the conversation is one that is so rampant and so negative in nature. So, I mean, how do we deal with it? Well, how do we deal with it? I mean, outside of having the strong policies and procedures, make sure that this does not
Contingency
happen to
planning.
us. I mean, but it's not just planning, but it's planning and testing. It's
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
do our staff know what to do here?
Yeah.
Do we know how to submit paper forms? Like, hey, all right, my postage is going to be through the roof. My mailman's going to be like, why are you giving me a giant file box? And I'm going to be like, well, because if I have 30 claims a day, and let's say I have 3 providers, I mean, I'm looking at daily almost 100 claims a day.
Mm,
And 3 providers is a relatively small practice.
right.
Now, mind you, if I'm operating within normal industry standards, those 3 providers on a full-time schedule, it's almost they should be generating about 90 grand a month. A month, bro.
Yeah, that's
Like now, mind you, in the current healthcare environment, in a situation like that, yes, they're revenuing 90 grand a month. But in order to get that 90 grand, they're actually billing 150 grand a month so they can try to get the 90 grand. But realistically, that 90 grand is going to be about 60 grand a month that then they have to chase the patients for
chasing.
the other 30 or write it off. Like it's a wild, wild game of accounting that always makes it complex. It's overly complex. But that's a whole nother, again, that's a whole nother conversation and aspect of everything. We're here to help. We're here to, I mean, stuff like this is gold for a consultant because
Yeah.
a lot of times it ends up being once it kind of settles, people call us and say, hey, we have to find a solution. This is where you find this is the impetus for not just changing how processes work, but finding where the fat is. So you may find that, hey, all right, looks like we can do the same job with one less mid-level, one less RN, 2 less people in the front office. I mean, everything's got to get, nothing is sacred. You cannot have a sacred cow if you're running a for-profit business. So, I mean, any questions, any concerns, any conversations, we're more than happy to have the conversation, both Ray and myself. I am looking forward I'm looking
Certainly
forward to
expounding on
how this evolves.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to what's next. I mean, the court cases that are going to come out of this are going to change the way that people do business. So on a compliance side, EPICompliance is going to be busy
Oh yeah. I was going to
because
say as well, Jose,
you got to update the BAAs.
yeah, update
Just
BAAs.
updating the BAAs. And this may actually go and do something that creates that. Okay, let's say that United used the Change Healthcare and has a BAA with them, even though they're a subsidiary, right? They go and all of a sudden say, hey, all of a sudden now those vendors are going to be even more scrutinized if they don't do everything that they're supposed to do. Let's say there are a lot of these BA business associates that aren't, yeah, we'll sign the BAA agreement, but they're not
Not
doing
actually doing
anything
anything.
on the back end.
Hmm. That's where that attestation comes into play. And
Dude, this is
that's
the
probably where that's going to be leading to is providers are going to have to interview their business associates and make sure they're actually getting, have the measures in place, especially on the
yeah,
cybersecurity side of things.
end all
Yeah.
be all.
Yeah.
My biggest recommendations, because I believe it's about that time anyways. I'm sure we can go into this one for we'll be touching this one.
No,
I think that
yeah.
it might be safe to say, Ray, that we touch this topic quarterly.
Yeah, no, I think so at this point because, like you said, it's not going anywhere anytime soon, and there's definitely going to be some repercussions, and we're interested to see how it shakes out. Eliza, I appreciate your time. Don, appreciate you being on here as well. Mary,
Yeah,
100%
I would
agree with
say
you.
honestly,
It's going to be a
everyone,
saga.
everyone, take a look at every single vendor you have and ask them what they're white labeling.
Yeah, no, that's great. Carol, appreciate you. Appreciate you having you on here as well.
So,
No, I'm
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
interested.
yeah.
Definitely interested to see how it shakes out. If you guys have any questions or concerns, again, Jose had mentioned it. Please feel free to reach out to us. This is what we do. We're here to help, especially if we can shed some light on anything. Don, we might have to get you on, depending on what you receive. Keep us
Oh,
posted
Don,
there.
I mean, I wonder if e-clinicals is going to change. Yeah, I wonder if Change Healthcare is going to make e-clinicals and all their other vendors have like an NDA on these contracts on the with the hush money because their money has to change hands. This is too big for there not to be any money. Definitely. And if you're and by the way, hot stock tip. Unite United's going to get kicked in the teeth for the next couple months. So if you're on a buying kick, United may not be a bad way to go. They're going to get dropped by a lot of people. So I mean, this is going to be an interesting one. This is really I'm very curious to see how this goes. Very curious. I mean, this could end up changing the way macro works. This could end up changing the way the safer guides works.
It's definitely there's going to be a lot of changes coming
Oh
down the
my
pipeline.
god!
100%, 100%. I wonder. We got to get your dad to weigh in as well. I'm interested to get his opinion.
Yeah, I'll talk to him. I'll talk to him. See if we can't get him on here
Yeah.
for the
Yeah,
next one. If
like I
we don't have
said,
Dawn
we'll
on
do an update each quarter. I think that's fair. And you know,
March, so
we'll get him
June.
on the next one. Yeah, it'll be June. We'll make sure that we get him on that one. But no, I
Unless
appreciate.
something super spicy pops up from now to then. But
We could do a mid-quarter. Uh, we'll call it a breaking news webinar.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
absolutely. Well,
Cool.
no,
So what's
Jose.
next week, Ray?
Yeah, hey, so next week, actually, Dr. Haley and I have been in touch with Dr. Nichols, and I don't know if you recall the PIP stuff.
Yep.
I don't think we're going to be discussing PIP, but we want to discuss sort of the peer review process and the medical care and insurance companies. So,
So
and
peer review
obviously,
is in what?
so peer review, so any independent medical evaluations for PIP customers
Gotcha.
that are essentially associated with a lawsuit and sort of
Gotcha. So all right. So anything insurance related. Cool.
yes.
Yeah, or
So
lawsuit related.
if you're a
If legal's going
chiropractic
to be looking at your
office,
notes, this is probably going to be one that you're going to want to look at.
if you're a chiropractic or a chiropractor or work for a chiropractic practice, definitely this is a good webinar to be on. So, but
Well,
stay
I mean,
tuned.
even dealing with a malpractice suit,
Or a malpractice suit. That's yes. There's value. There's
and
value there
anybody
as
that's
well.
in healthcare is susceptible to a malpractice suit. So cool.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to it then.
Yep. No, appreciate you, Jose, as always. And again, thanks everyone for being a part of this webinar. Again, stay tuned. This is certainly a saga, and we'll be providing some more updates here in the near future. So, um,
Definitely.
as I mentioned, we'll see you on the next webinar. I did put a link to our YouTube channel. Please subscribe. We are looking to build that page, and any of these webinars that we conduct, we do record these and we do place on our channel as well. So if you might have missed one or two, you can certainly look back at it. Look back on them. And again, if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, Jose. You guys, everyone,
Thanks,
take
guys.
care.
Stay safe. Bye.
Absolutely. Bye.